So today we're going to start lesson 6. So this is continuing our learning of conditionals, but this time what we're going to be doing is, now that we have a mental model for how conditionals work, we're going to look at some application code from code.org. And we're going to try to kind of understand what's happening in the code so that when we go to make our own programs, we have a deeper understanding. So let's warm up by creating a flowchart. So building off of the knowledge that we built in lesson number 5, let's go ahead and take this scenario where a water park will let a visitor on a ride if they are 48 or more inches tall, or, so remember this is logical or, they are 14 years or older. You're going to make a flowchart for this decision, making sure to use the appropriate comparison operators and appropriate logical operators. So if you remember, logical or is this one right here, double pipe. So you're going to need that one. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up with 2 variable names for the 2 pieces of information you need. Don't have to worry about writing anything in the values. So you're going to write something here and here for variable names. In this area right here, you're going to write your compound Boolean expression. And then you're going to write what happens if it's true and what happens if it's false. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to do that. I'm going to go ahead and write the decision here for you. So at this point, you can go to your paired X slide. The decision is whether, or, well, you know what, we'll say can I get on a ride at the water park? That's our decision. So using the information on the left, fill out the flow chart on the right. I'll give you a couple minutes to work on that. All right. So I know not all of you might be completely done, but let's go ahead and take a look at some people's answers. So if you want to switch back to my screen, I'll share what some of y'all came up with and we'll talk about it. So let me go ahead and share. Okay, so this one kind of has almost all the pieces. So we've got a variable named years old. So do remember that you can't have any spaces. So I would just take out this space and put maybe an uppercase O here. So years old, and then that's for the age, and then inches is for how tall the person is. That works well. Down here, we've got some of the information that we need, but I'm not seeing the variables. So we'll talk about how to improve that. We'll look at some of the other examples. But we do have can get on ride for the true scenario, and then for the false scenario, we have cannot get on the ride. So this is almost there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next example. Oops, the next answer that someone came up with. So this one's also really, really close. This person came up with inches for the variable name for how tall the person was, and age for how old the person was. That's really good. And then down here for the conditional, we have that the height has to be greater than or equal to 48. And if we look at what we have in the text here, they have to be 48 or more inches tall. So that's awesome. That works well. And then we're missing the logical or. So let's just put that in right there, the two vertical lines. And then on the right-hand side, we have the other condition that the person has to be 14 years old or older. So age has to be greater than or equal to 14 is a way of doing that. Cool. So if this is true, then we know that we can ride. If it's false, we cannot ride. All right, yeah, this one's really good. It was just missing the logical or here. And then let's take a look at maybe one more example, one more answer. All right, so this person has all the pieces. So they have age to represent how old a person is, and then height for how tall they are. And then they have successfully put together a compound Boolean that uses the or. So the age has to be greater than or equal to 14, or the height has to be greater than or equal to 48. If that's true, you can get into the ride. If it's false, then you cannot. All right, awesome. So we're going to be doing more practice so that this becomes a little bit more automatic for you all. Remember, if at any time you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me on the chat or on the microphone. So let's go ahead and move to our next slide here. So as we continue on to this next lesson number 6, you'll be seeing the words if and when a lot. Especially in this lesson, you'll be seeing if a lot. Previously, we were learning about on event handlers. So that happens in response to user input, like a click or a mouse or a keyboard press or something like that. Usually we will try to use the word when for on events. So when a person clicks the mouse, something happens. If is different, right? We're now talking about Boolean expressions, and Boolean expressions are usually used in these things called conditional statements, which we'll start to look at today in code. And a conditional statement decides what piece of code to run. So essentially, you can think of it as these branches here. So if an if is true, then the code that says you can get on the ride will run. Otherwise, if it's not true, it would run the code that says you cannot get on the ride. All right, so let's move on to our activity today. So we're going to take a moment and just watch this brief video about conditional statements, and then I'll clarify anything that needs clarifying. So give me one moment so I can share my audio. And let me know if the audio is, if you can hear it or if it's too loud or.
Our daily lives are filled with decisions, big and small. Even simple choices like what to wear usually are the result of complex considerations. What's the weather going to be like? What will you be doing today? Do you feel like making an impression or keeping it casual? But the world around us is constantly changing, so we want to adapt the choices we make to match the changing conditions. What's true for humans is also true for computer programs. We don't want our programs to always run in the same way. They should respond to changing conditions. In the last video, we learned how to use Boolean expressions to establish whether something is true or false. We can now add something called a conditional statement to help guide the computer's decisions based on that information. The simplest conditional statement is an if statement. It says that if something is true, the computer should run a specific block of code. Let's say that you want to create a program that displays whether or not you are old enough to see a PG-13 movie. So the question we want the computer to evaluate is, if age is greater than or equal to 13. The question, or Boolean expression, goes next to the if. The block of code we want to run, only if the condition is true, goes inside the if statement. So in our example, whenever the expression age greater than or equal to 13 is true, the program will write to the screen that you are old enough to see a PG-13 movie.
All right, so basically she just kind of quickly went over this notion of the conditional statement that evaluates whether or not a Boolean is true or false. And if it's true, we'll run a certain block of code. So we'll be looking at examples of applications that use these conditional blocks. So the first one that we're going to look at is this application called Lemon Squeeze. And we're actually going to be looking at a few different versions of Lemon Squeeze today and next class. So the first version, we're going to take a look at several different sections of the code to try to kind of understand and explain what's going on in each section. So this is what I would like y'all to do. So on your screen, you can click to open this. It's up to you if you aren't on a machine that this will. I know some of you use your phones sometimes to attend class. Feel free to just watch me as I interact with the application. But if you want to click on the link and play with it on your own, that's totally fine too. I'm going to go ahead and open it up on my screen. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play at least one time to see what this application does. So remember, you have to click run first. And then it says, welcome lemon lovers, collect lemons and avoid limes. And then it looks like the only thing I can really do is click this play button. And I'm going to assume that it looks like all I have to do is mouse over the lemon. Okay. And if I accidentally touch the lime, the green piece of fruit, then I hear a bad noise play, and it looks like maybe my lives went down too. Yeah. If I touch a lemon, my score goes up by 1. If I touch the lime, then my lives goes down by 1. Okay, so yeah, once I run out of lives, if I run out of lives, it'll tell me my final score. I collected 11 lemons, and then it'll ask me if I would like to play again, and then I see that play button come up again. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. One more time. Let's try not to touch the limes because sometimes it spawns. Yeah, sometimes it spawns right under your mouse, right, Jorge? Yeah, I kept doing it to me. So this time I only collected 5 lemons, and then it asked me to play again. Okay, cool. So I get the basic idea. Basically, it's like I have to avoid the lime and I have to get as many lemons as possible. Cool. So if you were playing with the app, come back to my screen. We're gonna go ahead and look at the code together. So it says this game is garbage. Remember, this is version 1. We're gonna see version 2 and 3 eventually as well. So we'll see how they've improved the application. Okay, so um, it's not esports ready, no. All right, so they've broken up the code into 3 different sections. So let's look at this first section first. So we want to look at, and I can put this into blocks if that's easier. I want to look at lines 1 through 13, and I want to read the code in this section carefully and make sure that I understand how each line works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an opportunity to just look at this section yourselves. And if you, oops, dang it, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. I'm going to give you a moment to do that. Just look at this section right here. Is it on Classroom? Oh, let me share the link with you. Do you have the presentation open, Samara? You can click the link right here to get there. Or I can share the link also. Here it is. So take a moment, look at lines 1 through 13. And in the chat, if you think you know what's happening in this chunk, try to summarize what these lines do. Like, what's the purpose? What does it do? How does it do it? So I'll give you a minute or two to do that, and then we'll come back and talk it through. All right, so let's take a moment now and can anyone, and if you don't want to share with the whole class, you could private message me too. Can anyone kind of summarize what this code is doing? So lines 1 through 13, just like in a sentence, what's the purpose of this code? What does it do? In a way, yeah. So it kind of like just sets up the interface, yeah. I see another answer. It says sets up the variables, the sounds, and then shows what text will be on the screen. Uh, the code sets up the score and lives counters, yeah. What I says he forgot how to read code. It's been like a month. I mean, yeah, if you're out of practice, you're out of practice. So yeah, you all are all pretty much correct. It sets up everything, right? So lines 2 and 3 basically create those variables. They don't have values yet, but they're ready to take on values, right? Score and lives. And then starting on line 6 all the way to 13, that's your event handler for clicking on this play button right here. And then what happens when you click on the play button? Well, it sets the score to 0 and it sets the lives to 3. Let's go ahead and see that happen. So you can see that right here. Score is 0, lives is 3. Now the thing is that the code on line 8 and 9 doesn't actually put that on the screen, though. Um, that is put on the screen on line 10. So on line 10, it says, set the property of the score lives label, which is this area right here. I can prove that by going over to the game screen. And you can see that this thing is called score lives label. It doesn't fit all the way on screen, but trust me, that's what it is. And so line 10 basically sets the text of this area to say score and then whatever score is, which is going to be 0, and whatever, and then lives, and then whatever numbers inside lives, which is going to be 3. You also notice that the sound gets played just once. Remember, false means it does not loop. And then it sets the screen to the game screen, which is what we were just looking at. So bam, that's what gets run whenever I click the start button. Cool. All right, so let's move on to the next section of code. Let's look at the section number 2. So that's lines 16 through 30. So let me get that on the screen. See if I can fit all of it. Let me expand that. Clear. So we're now looking at 16 through 30. So take a moment and try to read through that. So this is another event handler. Take a moment and read through it, and then if you think you have an idea of what it does, you can either private message me or put in the chat what you think it does. Okay, so I see one answer. Feel free to still share out. So one person says that it sets the event that happens when the mouse goes over the lemon and makes it so when you touch a lemon, it adds a point to your score and then repositions the lemon and lime and updates your score. Yeah, yeah, that summarizes it greatly. So yeah, this is specifically an event handler for when you mouse over the lemon. So as Armando said, it adds 1 to your score. It repositions the lemon and the lime, puts it in a random XY position, both of them. And yes, and it updates your score down here. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see that happen. So let me, oh, there we go. So I'm going to mouse over it. So we saw both of them move to a random location. And then indeed, we do see that the score goes up by 1. Awesome. So let's now take a look at the very last chunk of code. So that's going to be down here. So it's going to be line 33. Hang on, what do they want us to look at? 33 through 53. So the rest of it, right? Yeah. Okay. So take a moment and take a look at this section right here. And same thing. If you think you can summarize what this chunk of code is doing, you can put it in the chat or direct message me. So I'll give you a moment to do that. All right, so I see a few messages in the chat, including some private messages. So let's see. If the mouse goes over the lime, it takes a point away. And when you have no more lives, it ends the game and takes us back to the start screen. Yes, that's absolutely correct. And then we have added on, it makes it so when you touch a lime, it deducts a point. And then, yes, it also repositions the lemon and the lime as well to a random XY coordinate. Updates to your lives, yes, and makes the game end when you reach 0 lives. So that's down here with the conditional. So if lives is less than 0, then it ends the game, right? It sets it back to start screen and then summarizes what your score was and asks you if you would like to play again. And then Miguel, you said that on line 46, does it include score? Because if it didn't, it would get erased. Let's see here. Um, oh, this is updating the screen because remember, if this gets triggered, if we mouse over the lime, our lives has to get updated. We're decreasing the lives, so that means we have to update the text there. So that's why it's there, because we need to update the display. So let me show you. So if I go ahead and put my mouse over the line, you'll see that lives went down by 1. It went from 2 to 1. And that's why that line's there. Again, this gets triggered, this conditional block, the blue part, will get triggered once I have less than 0 lives. So I can touch this one more time and I'll still be playing because my lives, my extra lives, I guess this should be extra lives, is now 0. If I touch it again, it's lives is now going to be -1 essentially. And so -1 is less than 0, and that's why we get back to the start screen and we see our final score and the message play again. Play again. Um, so yeah, this was version 1 of Lemon Squeeze, and we will see 2 different versions of this application this week as well. So it is now 11:31. Give me a quick second here. Let me just give you a preview of what's to come. So we're going to start next time with a couple of videos about conditionals, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at Lemon Squeeze Part 2. If you would like to re-watch any of the videos that I show in class, they are actually within code.org. So let me move this out of the way. Anytime you see like a diamond here, that's going to be a resource such as a video. So the first video that I showed this class is this diamond right here. And then these 2 diamonds right here are going to be the next videos that we watch. So if you want to preview the videos before class, go for it. You can also turn on subtitles and things like that. But we should hopefully be able to finish this lesson next class. And then on Friday, we have a guest speaker coming to talk to us from UCSD about a couple of opportunities that are coming up. All right, so I think that's all I wanted to cover today. You don't have any homework due today. If we do finish this lesson this week, you have homework due on Friday, and that's just the check for understanding. So don't do that until we're done with this lesson, though. It's on Google Classroom already, but don't do it until we're done with the lesson. If we need to extend it till next week, then I'll extend it to next week. All right, so that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I will stick around for a bit, but if not, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye, everybody.